I can have basically perfect diabetic control for like a few days, but it just stresses me out to the point where I will just crash. I know this because I've done it before, and I've just crashed and like I have that fine, and then I just burn out. Basically, burn out on any mental capacity to control whatsoever, and end up in hospital because this is what happens when I don't control diabetes. So, yeah, I sort of stay on top of things, albeit not perfectly, and it mostly works. And system scan. No, and system scanned. No, moving on.
Frameshift drive charging.
Why the fuck do I have so many windows open right now? Right, do I need this? Yes, I need that one open. I sort of need that one open, even though I don't actually have a clue what this one's about yet. What is this one about?
4, 3, 2, 1. Engage.
Yeah, was it type 1 or type 2 Colossus, may I ask?
Fuel scooping.
Do we find out what sugars are? It's not just sugar, that's the thing, it's carbohydrate, that's the problem. I mean, sugar is the problem for sure, but it's the carbohydrate that's the problem, because if it's not sugar yet, it soon will be. Moving on.
Frameshift drive charging.
True.
Fuel scooping.
To be fair, I'd much rather have type 1 than type 2 diabetes. Type 1 diabetes, at least I can more or less eat what I want. Hypoglycemic is low sugar, or low blood sugar specifically. Hypoglycemic is high blood sugar. So, I don't tend to go low very often. But, yeah. So diabetes, so yeah, you can have thyroid issues which will cause repeated low blood sugar. That's utterly unrelated to diabetes, it just happens to have some of the same symptoms. But whatever, it happens, it's a separate thing. So what happens is, I'll try and explain the entire process if it's working properly. So when you eat food, be it whatever food it is, we'll assume it has sugar content or carbohydrate content. We'll go carbohydrates because it's adds one step, it doesn't remove anything later. So you eat a sandwich of whatever, who cares? The bread hits your stomach, the carbohydrates get broken down, it gets digested, the carbohydrates will get broken down into sugars. Sugars will then hit your bloodstream through the gut and all of that. At that point, when... Oh, yeah, exactly. I think I have some. Yeah, why not, Frenchy? Good plan. So that happens. So yeah, you eat food, carbohydrates broken down to sugar, whatever. The sugar hits your bloodstream. Your blood sugar starts then increasing. This is what we test. This is what I have this for. You'll see me doing this sometimes in stream. I normally try to do it before or after streams or around streams. It varies. But anyway, you will sometimes see me do that on stream. There's a finger prick test. You get a little. Actually, why not? We've been going for 2 hours. I might as well because I had lunch earlier. So you get this. Actually, no. Hold on. Right, so you get
System scan complete.
so you have sugars, whatever carbohydrates broken down to sugar, sugar hits your blood system. Then we have, not anymore we don't, finger pricker. This one's actually got one lancet left in it. This is actually, so it has a little lancet drum inside it, like this. It's basically contains 6 solid needles, as opposed to the hollow ones used to actually inject. So all you do is you just finger prick like this, and this one just has a little button, press, fire, get some blood, ta-da! And then you have a blood test meter. This one's I quite like. I should check how many tests on this. 24, it's fine. You have a little strip at the bottom. I don't know how well you can see that. There you are. Yeah, you can see that quite well. It's just loading a strip. There you are. So you have that strip. Apply. No, you don't. Oh, come on, get on with it. There we are. Apply blood. Yeah, it's very well done. It will test the blood, and it will say that I'm currently quite high. When I say quite high, I mean that that's supposed to be below about 8. So that's the thing. I'm just changing a lancet drum because that one's run out. They have 6 in a drum, so 6 in a drum. And a little one said. So after which, now I already did an injection at the beginning of the stream. This one, I have a little cap on here which tells me how long since I last injected. I don't know if you can see that. About 2 hours ago, basically. You were here. If you were here, then you'll remember that. If you weren't here, then you won't, but I did. So this insulin has an effective time of about 4 hours, so I'm not going to add more now. That'll be in about 2 hours' time. Because problem is, I injected additional corrective insulin when I had lunch 2 hours, or when I was injecting for lunch 2 hours ago. On top of which, if I add more correction now, then I have correcting for the same sugar twice, which is sort of a problem. That's how you go. That's how I'm going to end up low. So we're not doing that now. We'll do that later. Not interested in going low. But anyway, so what happens for normal people? Let's go put the game back on screen. For normal people, when the sugar hits your system, your body notices and it reacts. And what happens is, you have hormone signals in the body. There is beta cells in the islets of Langerhans in your pancreas. Will respond and they start producing insulin. In normal people, who will go actually call properly pancreatically healthy people, whatever. Wow, Colossus, that's not. No, about database. Passing away because he went into a hypo and his 24/7 caretaker was late. Yeah, that can happen. I will talk about some of that bit as well in a moment as well, because various things happen to me in the other direction. But yeah, so in a healthy person, your insulin production is reactive, and it will do that. You eat the food, the sugar hits your bloodstream, your body produces insulin to react, and you can look up a chart of a normal person's thing. It will go up and down, up and down, up and down, and it doesn't normally get higher than about 9, whatever that unit of measurement is. Where I was somewhat beyond that. That's just for a healthy person. Now in type 1 diabetes, type 2 is a little bit different. Type 2, which is the more common one, but type 2, your body basically just becomes resistant to your own insulin, so it just doesn't work as much, and it's sort of diet control. But type 1, which is mine, or not mine, but one I have, whatever. So what actually happens, it's autoimmune. Your body's immune cells attack the islets of Langerhans, so you lose all your insulin producing cells. Bit of a problem. No, moving on.
Frameshift drive charging.
So yeah, that's a little bit of a problem there. Hence why we have to do the injection of insulin, because it takes a while for that to take effect. Ooh, now entering Elysian Shore. This is the first time I've left the home region since 3.3. Nice. But yeah, so we ideally inject in advance. I'm about 15 minutes. I'm not so good at the advanced bit, but I do generally do okay at injecting with the food. So, and we have to work it out, and we have all of. We were talking about it earlier, I think, how I was saying about the ratio I use. So at lunchtime and dinner time, it's 1 unit for every 10 grams of carbohydrates I've eaten. One of the several reasons I eat a lot of ready meals is because I literally just have that number on the back, and it's just, to be honest, easier. It's also quicker. I like quick. I'm always busy one way or another, and time. High metals, is that? Yes, it is. Okay then. So one of the... That is just one of the reasons I do that. It's because, to be honest, it's just easier for me to know exactly what I'm eating. That way, without having to try and work it out and guess and so on. But anyway, either way, your insulin gets into your system, from your blood. The insulin, what the insulin actually does. So insulin is a transport vector. So I'm not sure if that's technically the right term, but yeah. What insulin actually does, insulin provides a path for the sugar to go from your blood into your cells where it's needed. It's like if you're really high on sugar, blood sugar, you can have all the energy you need, but if you don't have the insulin for it, the energy isn't getting to where it's needing to. It's like a plug socket here, it's got all the energy I could need, but if there's nothing plugged into it, the energy doesn't go anywhere. It's the same basic thing, so if you're not plugging, so basically, yeah, if you have no insulin, the sugar just gets stuck in your blood. Now, once it hits the cells, then it just does all the stuff that normally does, and anyone who knows what Krebs cycles are, and ATP and all of that shebang, that's its own process. That's it. But that bit works as normal. That's fine. Energy gets where you need to go. Then it gets fun. So if you don't have enough sugar, first of all, if you don't have enough sugar at all, just plain out don't, then you have no energy to get where you're going anyway. Eventually what happens is, like, if I go low, I basically can't walk. I could probably stand up and stuff, but, like, I wouldn't want to try going down the stairs. You know, it's quite weird feeling. But it's like, I've never really had a problem with hypo significantly. I've never been anywhere near as bad as Colossus's friend. That was the wrong button. For which I am grateful, but it's not a fun feeling when you basically can't walk because your legs feel like jelly, basically. Yeah, fun times. But yeah, so, and eventually what will happen is your body will start prioritizing in, basically, it will divert all energy reserves to keep the brain and the heart functioning. Which is why you will stop working. There's actually thresholds below which, lol, no. There's fairly well identified thresholds below which your brain actually starts being affected because even your brain is not getting enough energy anymore. And that's based on the blood-brain barrier is very cleverly evolved to basically the blood-brain barrier. So for those who don't know, it's basically designed to keep bad stuff out of your head, while still letting the good stuff in. It's very, very, very well evolved to let sugar through no matter what. Yeah, you will pass out eventually, because it's like I say, you can't walk, and then you will just fall into a coma because you don't have the energy to keep your basic life functions going. And that is what will happen. Like, that's never happened to me in that direction. If you get too high on sugar, which is to say you're eating too much and not taking enough insulin, why am I expecting to find anything? Well, I have no tuning that. But if you're doing it the other way around, which is where things tend to go for me, every single time I've ended up in hospital, I stopped counting. To be honest, then things start going the other way. So what happens the other way? If your body is not getting the energy it needs at that stage, then you will start breaking down body fat. There's a non-official, there's a sort of more recently evolving thing called diabulimia, which is basically a diabetic with bulimia, but to the point where they deliberately inject less insulin to keep themselves higher than they should be so that their body starts burning body fat to lose weight. Basically, it's not healthy. Let's just make that one clear. And also, can I just point out, I'm not a medical professional or anything. If you're having issues with this, go and talk to someone who is. I just want to make that one clear. I have my own experiences and my own knowledge. I don't have qualifications. I don't have published works or anything like that. I'm not a psychologist, if it's that sort of thing. I have, however, lost this planet. Where's it gone? But, so what happens is your body will start breaking down fat for energy, which is, in and of itself, really not a problem. Special. Ouch, that's unfun, Colossus. But in general, Colossus is an exception. Breaking down body fat for energy for a little while is really not a problem. It's actually surprisingly efficient. However, there is contained within the fat, because the fat cells in your body effectively just lock up stuff within them. It's almost like trees locking away carbon from the atmosphere, type thing. Carbon sequestration, I call it. Sequestration? Anyway, it's the same basic thing. Anything trapped in the fat of your body just stays there. When those fat cells get broken down, one of the things they release is called ketones. Ketones are acidic. And once your body has broken down the fat, they are also in your blood. If anyone would like to, so blood plus acid. And you wonder why it's a bad thing when that starts happening. So, yeah, we call that one diabetic ketoacidosis. I think I've now ended up in hospital with that about 30 times. I genuinely stopped counting after about 20, to be honest. It's not good. I know I sort of slightly joke about it. That's, to be honest, a coping mechanism. But yeah, so it's not good. And what basically happens when you end up in the hospital is, firstly, they put a drip of saline in because they need to. Then they put a drip of insulin in to get your sugar levels down. And then they put a drip of sugar in to keep your sugar levels up, to balance it out, because you're not eating at that point. Yeah, no, it's not fun. So when I end up in hospital, I end up in hospital with 3 drips in my arm inside of about half an hour, because DKA, diabetic ketoacidosis, as it is called, comes fairly high up the list on a triage list. In that I'm probably going to be going through the emergency room much faster than most of the other people there. I'd say I feel bad about it, but at the time I feel too crap to give a fuck. But yeah, the first thing that happens when your blood sugar levels start hitting about 13, what you'll get is a complete system scan, apparently. But no, what you'll get, your body tries to get rid of sugar by any way possible. To make that much more complicated. Yeah, this is true. Oh yeah, we'll get to my life experiences on that one soon, Colossus. Don't worry. I say soon. How long have I been talking? So the first thing that happens is your body starts trying to get rid of sugar. It does this by sending that sugar to the kidneys, basically, so you can pay it out. So the first 2 symptoms you'll see when you start going high are A, you really need to pee, and B, because peeing out sugar cubes would be extremely painful, you really get very thirsty. You will see, and if those who watch on a regular basis, Freachy being one of them, you will see there are days I am drinking way more than other days, and today I'm talking even more so than usual, so that doesn't help. But you'll see there are days I'm drinking more and faster or more often or something than other days, and you can probably guess how high I am in sugar on either of those based on that alone. Hey Sally. That happens first. But what happens as things start getting more acidic, as the ketones start getting higher? Firstly, I just start losing focus. It's like, I have had times before, I know exactly what's happening. I know perfectly well what's happening. I know exactly what I have to do to fix it. Go and grab the fucking insulin from halfway across the room. It's not even that far. Take a freaking injection and start drinking. And I cannot summon the mental capacity to actually do it. You know, it's let's put it this way, it's not fun. But at the same time, I know exactly what I have to do, and you can't really summon the mental. And again, this is a case of your mileage may vary, not everyone is the same. I'm going to scan this gas giant just because it's the only thing in the system, if I can find it at least. Yeah, it's the only one in the system, so I will just scan that. Because I might as well. And it's just like, literally is just a case of cannot summon the mental capacity to actually
Frameshift drive
do that. It's a thing. Also, I start getting sort of tremor, like clammy shivery type stuff, and then you start with the whole puking thing and so on. That's normally the point I conclude I need to go to the hospital, because when you get to that stage, it becomes very difficult to deal with it yourself, because the way to deal with it involves drinking, or at the very least sipping quite a bit of water, because you need to rehydrate yourself. You need to rehydrate yourself. You need to help yourself wash out the ketones, which comes back to the whole toilet thing, and stuff. It's hard to do that if you can't keep the water down. Sorry, I'm trying not to be overly graphic about this, but there's only so much you can say. Well, not getting disgustingly graphic. But yeah, so 2.5 years ago. No, I can date this even more perfectly than that. So, for those who don't remember or don't care or didn't care, the Brexit referendum. Yes, I know we've managed to drag politics into it. By coincidence, this is, in fact. So, that was the day we were going on holiday, so it was literally bright and early Thursday morning, go to polling station, conveniently on the same road as me, vote, get in the car, and we drove to Ireland for a holiday. It was literally that. I came back on the Tuesday after that. We had we woke up on Friday morning, and yeah, that was an interesting day. But anyway, where were you when you heard how completely stupid most of the country is? Anyway, I digress. We're not getting into politics today. I came back on the next Tuesday. That Saturday. Yeah, so that Friday, and actually no, that Friday. Now this is at a time I still did a podcast with Clee. A separate podcast. This was a podcast for the Secret World, which we were due to be recording that Friday night. I basically said, I'm not feeling so well today. I'm going to not do this one if that's all the same to you. And Clay was like, yeah, that's fine. Go get some rest, etc. Which, and let's be fair, he didn't do anything wrong there. I'm not going to try and assign blame, because no one gets any blame on this one other than me. Anyway. The last thing I remember was about 3 a.m, and I'm not sure why I was still up at 3 a.m. at that point, knowing that I felt bad. Hey, Talia, we're talking about how my medical life is completely screwed up. But yeah, the last thing I specifically remember, or any clearly remember, was sometime in the middle of the night. Apparently, I did send an email at about 6 a.m. to a person I was due to have lunch with on Saturday, saying, sorry, I'm going to have to cancel, I'm not feeling particularly well. The next thing I remember was sometime in the middle of Monday, when I woke up in an ICU with a plastic tube down my throat and no idea what was going on, because I'd been in a coma since sometime on Saturday morning. That email, apparently, by the way, actually literally saved my life, because the person who I was supposed to be having dinner with, obviously I didn't turn up. They were slightly pissed off, saw that email, made an educated guess as to what had happened, and called an ambulance. And had they done so about an hour later, then they wouldn't have needed an ambulance to have the flashing lights on top. They would have just been there to collect the body. Yay! So yeah, shit gets real. Ooh, high metal content. So yeah, that was fun. Also, fun times. That's not the last time I've ended up in hospital. I did try very hard afterwards as well, to be fair. Not that I wasn't trying afterwards, but I did try quite hard. But yeah, that's what can happen, because it will just kill you. And I'm going to say something which might be slightly controversial here, but I'm going to say it anyway. And why am I being so terrible at searching for stuff when I should be doing this properly? Here we are. And like, people who only, and again, I'm not trying to demean or diminish in any way things like people who only have to take pills once a day or something like that, or twice a day or whatever. It's just pills. And again, I know that those pills help with a lot of very, very bad and debilitating things, but still, I have to do a finger prick blood test every meal, every morning, before I go to bed, before I drive legally. I have to do it before I drive anywhere. And then I have to do another injection every time I drive. No, not drive, every time I eat. Doing injection every time I drive would probably be a bad thing. But it's not the same thing.